There is a version of you that does not hesitate before speaking, does not shrink in front of opportunity, and does not wait for permission to move forward. That version is not a fantasy. It is a result of training your mind, your behavior, and your standards over time. Most people spend their lives stuck between what they want and what they actually do. They overthink, they doubt themselves, they wait for the perfect moment. And that moment never comes. Confidence is usually seen as something people are born with, but the truth is far more practical. It is built through experience, through discomfort, and through repeated proof that you can handle life, even when it does not go your way. Dangerous confidence is different from normal confidence. It is not about appearing strong on the outside while feeling uncertain inside. It is not about arrogance or trying to dominate others. It is a deep internal certainty that you will figure things out no matter what happens. It makes you take action when others hesitate. It makes you stand firm when others give in. It makes you calm in situations where most people panic. This kind of confidence changes everything. It changes how you walk into a room, how you speak to people, how you make decisions, and how you respond to failure. It removes the constant need for approval and replaces it with self-trust. When you reach this level, you stop living according to fear and start living according to purpose. The reason most people never reach this state is not because they are incapable. It is because they avoid discomfort. They want confidence without challenge. They want results without risk. But confidence is earned through facing exactly what you are trying to avoid. Every moment of hesitation, every excuse, every delay weakens your belief in yourself, while every small act of courage strengthens it. This journey is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming someone who acts despite fear. It is about building a mindset that does not collapse under pressure and a personality that does not depend on validation. You will learn how to develop self-respect, how to control your thoughts, how to take action even when you feel unprepared, and how to turn failure into strength. By the end of this guide, you will not just understand confidence, you will begin to build it in a real and practical way, not through empty motivation, but through actions that reshape how you see yourself and what you believe. You are capable of. The process will challenge you. It will require honesty, discipline, and consistency. But if you follow it seriously, you will notice a shift. You will start trusting yourself more. You will start acting faster. You will stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Slowly, without even realizing it, you will become the person others describe as confident, while you simply feel in control of your own life chapter. One, understanding what dangerous confidence really means. Dangerous confidence is often misunderstood because people confuse it with arrogance, ego, or loud behavior. In reality, it is much quieter and much stronger. It is not about showing others that you are powerful. It is about knowing within yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. At its core, dangerous confidence is self-trust. It is the ability to rely on yourself in uncertain situations. It is the belief that even if things go wrong, you will adapt, learn, and move forward. This is what makes it dangerous, not in a harmful sense, but in a powerful sense, because it removes the biggest limitation most people have, which is fear of failure and fear of judgment. Most people live their lives trying to avoid discomfort. They avoid speaking up. They avoid taking risks. They avoid situations where they might fail. This avoidance slowly builds a mindset where they start believing they are not capable. Dangerous confidence breaks this pattern completely. It pushes you to move toward discomfort instead of away from it. One important truth you must accept is that confidence is not a personality trait. It is a skill. This means it can be built, trained, and strengthened over time. Just like physical strength comes from repeated exercise, mental strength and confidence come from repeated action. Another key point is that dangerous confidence does not mean you will always feel strong. There will be moments of doubt, hesitation, and fear. The difference is that you will not let those feelings control your actions. You will move forward anyway, And that is where real power comes from. There is also a clear difference between external confidence and internal confidence. External confidence is how you appear to others. It can be faked for a short time through body language or words. Internal confidence is how you feel about yourself when no one is watching. Dangerous confidence is built on internal strength, not external appearance. When you rely only on external validation, your confidence becomes fragile. If people praise you, you feel strong. If they criticize you, you feel weak. This creates instability. Dangerous confidence removes this dependency. It is built on your own standards, your own discipline, and your own actions. You must also understand that confidence grows from evidence. Your brain believes what you prove to it. If you consistently avoid challenges, your brain collects evidence that you are not capable. If you consistently face challenges, your brain collects evidence that you are strong, capable, and adaptable. This is why small actions matter more than big intentions. Every time you do something that feels uncomfortable, you are adding proof to your identity. You are telling yourself through action that you are someone who takes control instead of avoiding life. Another important aspect of dangerous confidence is responsibility. You stop blaming circumstances, people, or luck for your situation. Instead, you take ownership of your actions and your growth. This does not mean everything is your fault, but it means you choose to focus on what you can control rather than what you cannot. You take responsibility. You gain power because you stop waiting for external changes. You start creating change through your own decisions. Dangerous confidence also involves clarity. Knowing who you are, what you value, and what you want gives direction to your actions. Without clarity, confidence becomes unstable because you are easily influenced by others' opinions. When your values are clear, your decisions become easier. You do not hesitate as much because you know what aligns with your identity now. Consider how this applies in real situations. Example: a young professional is in a meeting where they have an idea that could improve a project. They feel nervous because others in the room are more experienced. Instead of staying silent, they choose to speak. Their voice may not be perfect, but they express their idea clearly. Some people may question it, but they handle it calmly. This action builds confidence, not because the idea was perfect, but because they prove to themselves that they can act despite fear. Example: a person wants to improve their physical health, but has always avoided exercise because they feel uncomfortable in that environment. Instead of waiting to feel ready, they start with small steps. They go for short walks, then gradually increase intensity. Over time, they build not only physical strength, but also mental confidence because they followed through on something they used to avoid. These examples show an important pattern. Confidence is not created in comfort. It is created through action in uncomfortable situations. As you move forward, remember this: dangerous confidence is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming a stronger version of yourself. It is built step by step through your choices, your actions, and your willingness to face what most people avoid. This chapter is your foundation. Once you understand what confidence truly is, you can begin building it in a real and lasting way. Chapter 2: The brutal truth about fear. Fear is the most powerful force standing between you and the life you want. Yet it is also one of the most misunderstood experiences people have. Most individuals treat fear as a stop sign, something that tells them to pause, step back, or avoid a situation completely. But in reality, fear is often a signal that you are standing at the edge of growth. If you look closely at the moments where you feel the most fear, you will notice a pattern. Those moments are usually connected to something that matters to you: speaking in front of people, starting something new, taking responsibility, expressing your true thoughts, or stepping into uncertainty. Fear shows up exactly where your potential is being tested. The problem is not fear itself. The problem is how you respond to it. When you avoid fear, you train your mind to believe that you are not capable of handling difficult situations. This creates a cycle where your world becomes smaller, and your confidence becomes weaker. Over time, even small challenges begin to feel overwhelming. On the other hand, when you face fear, even in small ways, you start breaking that cycle. You begin to teach your mind that discomfort is not dangerous, and that you can survive situations that once felt impossible. This is where real confidence starts. To grow, one of the hardest truths to accept is that you will never feel completely ready. There is no moment where fear disappears entirely before you take action. Waiting for that moment will keep you stuck indefinitely. Dangerously confident people understand this. They do not wait for fear to go away. They act while fear is present. Your mind is designed to protect you. It tries to predict worst-case scenarios and keep you safe from potential harm. But in modern life, this protection often becomes excessive. It stops you from taking risks that are actually necessary for growth. The thoughts you experience before a challenging situation are rarely accurate reflections of reality. They are exaggerated possibilities, not guaranteed outcomes to move forward. You must learn to separate thoughts from truth. Just because your mind says something will go wrong does not mean it will happen. You need to test those thoughts through action. Another important aspect of fear is that it shrinks when you face it and grows when you avoid it. The longer you delay confronting something, the bigger it feels in your mind. What could have been a small challenge becomes a major obstacle simply because you gave it time to expand. Facing fear does not require huge dramatic actions. It starts with small, consistent steps. Each step reduces the intensity of fear and increases your sense of control. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes normal. You must also understand that fear is temporary, but regret can last much longer. Avoiding action may give you short-term comfort, but it often leads to long-term dissatisfaction. Taking action may feel uncomfortable in the moment, but it builds long-term confidence and self-respect. Dangerous confidence is built on the habit of choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort. This means repeatedly doing what feels uncomfortable until it becomes part of who you are. It is also important to recognize that fear often comes with physical sensations, such as a racing heart, tension, or restlessness. Instead of trying to eliminate these sensations, you should learn to accept them as part of the process. They are not signs that you are weak. They are signs that you are stepping outside your comfort zone. When you stop resisting fear and start moving with it, you gain control over your actions, even when your emotions are intense. Consider how this works in real situations. Example: a student is afraid of asking questions in class because they worry about looking foolish. They sit quietly even when they do not understand the material. One day, they decide to ask a simple question. Despite feeling nervous, the experience is uncomfortable, but nothing negative happens. Over time, they continue asking questions, and their fear begins to decrease while their confidence grows. Example: an individual wants to switch careers, but fears uncertainty and failure. They spend months thinking about it, but take no action. Eventually, they decide to explore opportunities by learning new skills and applying for roles. Even though they face rejection, they gain experience and clarity. Each step forward reduces fear and increases their belief in their ability to adapt. These examples highlight a critical idea: fear loses its power when it is challenged through action. As you move forward, remember this: fear is not something you need to eliminate. It is something you need to understand and work with. It will appear again and again at every level. Evolve. Growth. The difference is that you will become stronger in how you respond to it. Dangerous confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act in spite of it. Every time you make that decision, you build a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Chapter 3. Self-respect is the foundation. If fear is the barrier, then self-respect is the ground you stand on. Without it, confidence cannot last. You might appear confident for a short time, but under pressure, it will collapse because there is no internal structure holding it together. Self-respect is not something you claim. It is something you build through your actions. It is the result of how you treat yourself when no one is watching. It is the quiet understanding that your words matter, especially to yourself. Most people damage their own self-respect daily without realizing it. They set intentions and then ignore them. They make promises to themselves and then break them. They delay important tasks and choose comfort over responsibility. Every time this happens, a small message is sent to the mind that says you cannot be trusted. Over time, this becomes a belief. Dangerous confidence cannot exist in someone who does not trust themselves, because when pressure comes, and it always does, you will rely on your past behavior. If your history shows inconsistency, your mind will hesitate. If your history shows discipline, your mind will stay steady. This is why self-respect begins with very simple but powerful actions. Keeping your word to yourself is one of the strongest ways to build it. If you decide to do something and you follow through, no matter how small it is, you strengthen your identity. It is important to understand that self-respect is not about perfection. You will make mistakes, you will miss days, and you will struggle at times. What matters is your response. When you fail, do you quit, or do you return to your commitment quickly? The ability to come back without excuses is what builds strength. Another key part of self-respect is setting boundaries. This means deciding what you will accept and what you will not accept in your life. When you constantly allow things that go against your values, you weaken your sense of self. When you stand firm, even when it is uncomfortable, you reinforce it. Self-respect also grows when you take responsibility for your life. Instead of blaming others or circumstances, you focus on what you can control. This mindset shifts your energy from frustration to action. It gives you a sense of ownership and control, which directly increases confidence. Discipline plays a central role here, but it is often misunderstood. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to suffer. It is about creating structure that supports your goals. It is about doing what needs to be done, even when you do not feel like it. This consistency creates stability in your behavior and clarity in your identity. When you act with discipline repeatedly, you begin to see yourself differently. You no longer rely on motivation because your actions are guided by commitment. This creates a deeper level of confidence because it is based on proof, not emotion. Another important aspect is how you speak to yourself. Your internal dialogue should reflect respect, not constant criticism. If you continuously insult yourself in your own thoughts, you weaken your foundation. Self-respect requires honesty, but also fairness. You acknowledge your mistakes, but you do not define yourself by them. You also need to align your daily habits with the person you want to become. Your habits are not random. They are evidence of your priorities. When your habits reflect your goals, your self-respect increases because your life is moving in a clear direction. Over time, these small, consistent behaviors create a powerful identity. You begin to trust your decisions. You feel more stable under pressure, and you act with more certainty. This is the core of dangerous confidence. It is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, reliable, and strong. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person decides to wake up early every day to work on a personal goal. The first few days are difficult, and they feel tempted to stop, but they continue anyway. Even on days when motivation is low, they follow through. After a few weeks, they start seeing themselves as someone who is disciplined. This shift in identity builds deep confidence because it is based on consistent action. Example: someone struggles with saying no to others. They often agree to things that drain their time and energy. One day, they begin setting small boundaries. They decline requests that do not align with their priorities. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but over time, they feel more in control of their life. Their self-respect increases because they are honoring their own needs. These examples show that self-respect is built through behavior, not intention. As you continue this journey, remember that everything starts here. If you do not respect yourself, your confidence will always depend on external factors. But when you build strong self-respect, your confidence becomes stable and independent. Dangerous confidence is not created in a single moment. It is built daily through the choices you make and the standards you follow. When you become someone who keeps their word, sets boundaries, and takes responsibility, you create a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Chapter 4. Stop seeking approval. One of the biggest obstacles to building real confidence is the constant need for approval from others. This need is often subtle, but deeply rooted. It shows up in the way you speak, the way you act, and the decisions you make. You start adjusting yourself not based on what is right for you, but based on what will be accepted by others. At first, this might seem harmless. You want people to like you. You want to avoid conflict. You want to fit in. But over time, this behavior slowly disconnects you from your true self. You begin to lose clarity about what you actually think, what you actually want, and what you actually believe. Dangerous confidence cannot exist in someone who is dependent on approval, because when your sense of worth comes from others, you become unstable. Your confidence rises when you are praised and falls when you are criticized. This creates a fragile mindset where you are constantly reacting instead of leading. You must understand that approval is unpredictable. Different people have different expectations and opinions trying to satisfy. Everyone is not only impossible, it is exhausting. It forces you into a constant state of adjustment where you are never fully yourself. Letting go of approval does not mean ignoring others completely. It means you stop depending on their validation to feel confident. You can listen to feedback, you can learn from others, but your final decisions come from your own values, not from fear of judgment. One of the reasons people seek approval is fear of rejection. Rejection feels uncomfortable because it challenges your sense of belonging. But avoiding rejection comes at a higher cost. It limits your actions and keeps you from expressing your true potential. When you start accepting rejection as a normal part of life, you remove its power. You realize that being disliked or disagreed with does not define your worth. It simply reflects differences in perspective. Another important aspect is understanding that most people are not thinking about you as much as you think they are. Everyone is focused on their own concerns, their own insecurities, and their own lives. The fear of being constantly judged is often exaggerated. In your mind, when you reduce this fear, you gain freedom. Freedom to speak honestly, freedom to take risks, and freedom to act without overthinking every detail. To build this mindset, you must practice expressing yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. This could be sharing your opinion, making a decision without asking for validation, or standing by your choices when others disagree. Each time you do this, you strengthen your independence. It is also important to accept that not everyone will support your growth. Some people may feel uncomfortable when you start changing because it disrupts their expectations. This is normal. Growth often creates distance from those who are not ready to grow themselves. You must be willing to move forward, even if it means losing approval from certain people. This does not mean becoming disrespectful or careless. It means staying true to your direction while treating others with basic respect. Another key point is that seeking approval often leads to overthinking. You start analyzing every word, every action, and every possible reaction. This drains your energy and slows down your decisions. When you let go of this need, your thinking becomes clearer and your actions become faster. Confidence grows when you trust your own judgment. When you stop constantly checking if others agree with you, you develop a stronger sense of self. This creates stability in your behavior and clarity in your decisions. This shift changes how you experience life. You become less anxious in social situations, less afraid of criticism, and more focused on your own progress. Instead of trying to fit into expectations, you start creating your own path. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person is in a group discussion where everyone shares similar opinions. They have a different perspective, but hesitate to speak because they fear disagreement. One day they decide to express their view calmly and clearly. Some people may not agree, but nothing negative happens. In fact, they feel a sense of relief because they acted honestly. This moment builds confidence because they prove to themselves that they can handle disapproval. Example: someone wants to pursue a career path that is not supported by their social circle. They receive advice to choose something safer instead of blindly following others. They take time to evaluate their own goals and make a decision based on their values. The process is uncomfortable, but it strengthens their sense of direction and independence. These examples highlight an important principle: confidence grows when you act according to your own standards, not when you chase approval. As you continue this journey, remember that approval is temporary, but self-respect is lasting. When you rely on others for validation, you give away control. When you trust yourself, you take that control back. Dangerous. Confidence is built when you are willing to stand alone if necessary, not in isolation, but in independence. You respect others, but you do not depend on them to define who you are. You reach this point, your actions become more authentic, your decisions become stronger, and your presence becomes more powerful because it is real, not performed. Chapter 5: Building mental toughness. Mental toughness is where confidence is tested and proven. It is easy to feel strong when everything is going well, but real strength appears when things become difficult, uncertain, or uncomfortable. This is where most people break, and where dangerously confident individuals separate themselves. Mental toughness is not about being emotionless or ignoring pain. It is about staying functional and focused, even when emotions are intense. It means you do not collapse under pressure, and you do not abandon your direction when things become hard. Life will not always go according to your plans. There will be setbacks, delays, failures, and unexpected challenges. If your confidence depends only on positive outcomes, it will not survive. These moments, mental toughness allows your confidence to remain stable, even when results are not in your favor. One of the key elements of mental toughness is resilience. This is your ability to recover quickly from difficulties. Instead of staying stuck in frustration or disappointment, you process the situation, learn from it, and move forward. Most people waste a lot of time resisting reality. They focus on what should have happened instead of dealing with what actually happened. This creates emotional weight that slows them down. Mental toughness requires acceptance. You acknowledge the situation as it is and then decide your next move. Another important aspect is emotional control. This does not mean suppressing your emotions. It means not letting them dictate your actions. You can feel stress, fear, or frustration and still choose to act in a productive way. This ability becomes stronger with practice. The more you expose yourself to challenging situations, the better you become at managing your reactions. Over time, you develop a sense of stability that allows you to stay calm under pressure. Discomfort is also a major part of building mental toughness. Most people avoid discomfort because it feels unpleasant, but discomfort is where growth happens. When you repeatedly choose comfort, you weaken your ability to handle stress. When you intentionally face discomfort, you strengthen your tolerance. This can be done in small ways, such as taking on tasks that require effort, pushing yourself beyond your usual limits, or staying consistent even when you do not feel motivated. Each of these actions builds your capacity to handle pressure. Another critical factor is persistence. This is your ability to continue despite obstacles. It is easy to start something when you are motivated, but it is much harder to continue when motivation fades. Mental toughness is built in those moments when you choose to keep going anyway. You must also develop a long-term perspective. Not every effort will produce immediate results. Some progress is slow and requires patience. If you expect quick success, you will become discouraged easily. Mental toughness allows you to stay committed even when results take time. It is also important to manage your focus during difficult moments. Your mind may become scattered or overwhelmed. You need to bring your attention back to what you can control in the present. Instead of thinking about everything at once, you focus on the next step. and complete it. This approach reduces stress and increases effectiveness. It keeps you moving forward instead of getting stuck in overthinking. Another aspect of mental toughness is accountability. You take responsibility for your actions and outcomes. Instead of blaming others, this mindset keeps you in control because it directs your energy toward improvement rather than excuses. Over time, these qualities create a strong internal system. You become someone who can handle pressure, adapt to change, and continue moving forward regardless of circumstances. This is the core of dangerous confidence. It is not shaken easily because it is built through experience, not assumption. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example, a student prepares for an important exam but does not perform well. The result is disappointing and creates frustration. Instead of giving up or blaming the situation, they take time to understand their mistakes. They adjust their study method and prepare again. The second attempt is approached with more clarity and determination. This process builds resilience and strengthens their confidence because they prove they can recover and improve. Example, a person starts a fitness journey with strong motivation. In the beginning, they are consistent, but after some time, progress slows and motivation decreases. Instead of quitting, they continue showing up even when it feels difficult. They focus on small improvements and maintain their routine. Over time, their discipline becomes stronger than their emotions. This consistency builds mental toughness and reinforces their belief in themselves. These examples show that mental toughness is developed through experience, not theory, as you continue this journey. Remember that challenges are not obstacles to your confidence. They are the training ground for it. Every difficult moment is an opportunity to strengthen your ability to stay stable, focused, and persistent. Dangerous confidence is not about avoiding hard situations. It is about becoming strong enough to face them without losing control. When you build mental toughness, you create a level of confidence that remains steady regardless of what happens around you. Chapter 6. Action creates identity. One of the most powerful truths you need to understand is this: you do not become confident by thinking about confidence. You become confident by acting. Your identity is not built from what you say or what you plan. It is built from what you repeatedly do. Most people spend a large amount of time thinking about change. They imagine a better version of themselves. They set goals, they make plans. But when it comes to action, they hesitate. This gap between intention and action is where confidence is lost. Dangerous confidence is created when your actions consistently match the person you want to become. When you act in alignment with that identity, your mind begins to accept it as real. Your brain is always collecting evidence about who you are. If your behavior shows avoidance, hesitation, and inconsistency, your brain forms the belief that you are not capable. If your behavior shows effort, courage, and persistence, your brain forms the belief that you are strong and reliable. This means identity is not something you choose once. It is something you build daily through repeated behavior. Every small action is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting to feel ready before they act. They believe that once they feel confident, they will start. But confidence does not come first. Action comes first, and confidence follows. When you take action, especially when it feels uncomfortable, you create proof for yourself. This proof is more powerful than any positive thinking because it is based on real experience. Another important aspect is consistency. One action is not enough to change your identity. It is repetition that creates transformation. When you repeat a behavior again and again, it becomes part of who you are. This is why small actions are so effective. They are easier to repeat and maintain. Over time, these small actions build momentum and lead to larger changes. You must also be willing to start imperfectly. Waiting for perfect conditions or perfect performance will keep you stuck. Progress is more important than perfection. Every attempt teaches you something and moves you forward. It is also important to track your behavior, not just your results. Results can take time, but your actions are immediate. When you focus on what you are doing daily, you gain a sense of control and direction. This strengthens your confidence because you are actively shaping your identity. Another key factor is honesty. You must be honest with yourself about your actions, not your intentions. It is easy to believe you are trying, when in reality, you are avoiding. Honest self-evaluation allows you to adjust your behavior and stay aligned with your goals over time. As your actions become consistent, your identity becomes stronger. You no longer question whether you are capable, because you have evidence to support it. You have done the work, you have faced challenges, and you have continued. Moving forward, this creates a deep level of confidence that is not easily shaken. It is based on who you have proven yourself to be, not on temporary feelings. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person believes they are not good at communication. They avoid conversations and stay quiet in social settings. One day, they decide to start small. They initiate one short conversation each day, even if it feels uncomfortable. At first, it feels awkward, but they continue over time. They improve their ability to communicate and begin to see themselves differently. Their identity shifts from someone who avoids interaction to someone who can engage with others. Example: someone wants to become more productive, but often delays important tasks. Instead of trying to change everything at once, they focus on completing one important task each day without distraction. They repeat this behavior consistently. As days turn into weeks, their discipline increases and they begin to see themselves as someone who takes action instead of avoiding it. These examples show that identity is not fixed. It is shaped by what you do repeatedly. You move forward. Remember that every action matters, even the small ones. Each time you choose to act, you are building a stronger version of yourself. Each time you avoid action, you are reinforcing a weaker identity. Dangerous confidence is not built through motivation alone. It is built through consistent action that proves to you that you are capable, reliable, and willing to face challenges. When your actions align with your goals, your identity becomes clear. When your identity becomes clear, your confidence becomes natural. And when your confidence becomes natural, your behavior becomes powerful without effort. Chapter 7. Accepting failure without losing yourself. Failure is one of the most misunderstood parts of growth. Most people see it as a final result, something that defines their ability and limits their future. Because of this, they try to avoid it at all costs. But this avoidance creates a bigger problem. It stops them from taking the very actions that would help them grow. Dangerous confidence requires a completely different relationship with failure. Instead of seeing it as something to fear, you begin to see it as information. Every failure carries feedback. It shows you what did not work, what needs to improve, and where your current limits are. The key is to separate your identity from your outcomes. What happens to you is not who you are. If you attach your self-worth to every result, you will constantly feel unstable. A success will make you feel strong, and a failure will make you feel weak. This creates emotional swings that damage your confidence. When you learn to detach your identity from outcomes, you create stability. You can succeed without becoming arrogant, and you can fail without losing confidence. You remain focused on growth rather than labels. Another important truth is that failure is unavoidable if you are pushing yourself. If you are never failing, it usually means you are staying within safe limits. You are repeating what you already know instead of exploring new possibilities. Dangerous confidence is built by stepping beyond those limits. This naturally includes mistakes, setbacks, and imperfect results. A goal is not to eliminate failure, but to respond to it in a productive way. Your reaction to failure matters more than the failure itself. Many people fall into negative patterns after failing. They overthink, they criticize themselves harshly, and they hesitate to try again. This response strengthens fear and weakens confidence. A stronger approach is to analyze without judgment. You look at what happened with clarity, not emotion. You identify what you can improve, and you apply those lessons in your next attempt. This turns failure into progress. Speed of recovery is also important. The longer you stay stuck after a setback, the more it affects your mindset quick. Recovery does not mean ignoring your emotions. It means processing them and then returning to action without unnecessary delay. Another aspect is resilience. This is your ability to keep moving forward even when results are not immediate building. Something meaningful often takes time and multiple attempts. If you expect instant success, you will become discouraged quickly. You must also accept that failure may come with discomfort, embarrassment, or criticism. These experiences are part of growth. They test your ability to stay focused on your path despite external reactions. When you face failure repeatedly and continue moving forward, something changes within you. You become less afraid of it. You start seeing it as a normal part of the process rather than something to avoid. This shift removes a major barrier to confidence. Over time, you develop a sense of control, not because you can guarantee success, but because you trust your ability to handle any outcome. This is the fun essence of dangerous confidence. It is also important to recognize that every successful person has experienced failure, often many times. What separates them is not luck or talent alone, but their ability to continue despite setbacks. They use failure as a tool for improvement rather than a reason to stop. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person starts a small business with high expectations, but the initial results are disappointing. Sales are low, and the process feels difficult. Instead of quitting, they review their strategy. They identify weaknesses in their approach and make adjustments. Over time, they improve their methods and begin to see better results. This experience builds confidence because they learned how to adapt and persist. Example: a student applies for a competitive opportunity and gets rejected. The rejection feels discouraging and creates self-doubt. Instead of accepting it as a final judgment, they seek feedback and work on their skills. They apply again in the future with more preparation, even if the result is still uncertain. Their confidence grows because they took control of their improvement. These examples show that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the path toward it. As you continue this journey, remember that avoiding failure may protect your comfort, but it will limit your growth. Facing failure may challenge you in the moment, but it will strengthen you in the long-term. Dangerous confidence is built when you know that failure cannot break you. It may slow you down. It may test your patience, but it cannot define you. When you reach this understanding, you remove one of the biggest fears that holds people back. At that point, you are no longer controlled by outcomes. You are driven by progress, and that is where real confidence begins to take full form. Chapter 8. Controlling your inner voice. Your inner voice is one of the most powerful forces shaping your confidence. It is always present whether you notice it or not. It influences how you see yourself, how you interpret situations, and how you decide to act. For most people, this inner voice is not supportive. It is critical, doubtful, and often negative. It questions your abilities, reminds you of past mistakes, and predicts failure before you even try. If left unchecked, this voice can quietly control your behavior and limit your potential. Dangerous confidence requires you to take control of this internal dialogue, not by ignoring it or pretending it does not exist, but by understanding it and reshaping it. The first step is awareness. You need to start noticing what you are saying to yourself in different situations. Pay attention to your thoughts when you face a challenge, when something goes wrong, or when you step outside your comfort zone. This is where your true internal patterns appear. Once you become aware, you will start to see how often your thoughts are exaggerated or inaccurate. Your mind may jump to conclusions, assume the worst, or create unnecessary doubt. These thoughts feel real, but they are not always true. You must learn to question them. Instead of accepting every thought, As fact, you ask yourself whether it is based on evidence or fear. This simple shift creates distance between you and your negative thinking. Another important step is replacing destructive thoughts with constructive ones. This does not mean forcing yourself to think positively in an unrealistic way. It means choosing thoughts that are balanced and useful. For example, instead of telling yourself that you cannot handle something new, shift to the idea that you can try and improve. Instead of assuming failure, you focus on effort and learning. This approach keeps you grounded while still encouraging action. Your inner voice should become a tool that supports your growth, not something that holds you back. It should push you forward when you hesitate and stabilize you when you feel uncertain. Consistency is important here. Changing your internal dialogue does not happen instantly. Your mind has developed patterns over time, and it will take repeated effort to reshape them. Every time you challenge a negative thought and replace it with a better one, you are strengthening a new mental habit. Another key aspect is self-talk during difficult moments. When you face pressure or setbacks, your inner voice becomes even more influential. If it turns against you in those moments, your confidence can collapse quickly. You need to train yourself to respond differently. Instead of criticizing yourself, you guide yourself through the situation. You remind yourself to stay focused, to take the next step, and to keep moving forward. This creates stability even when emotions are strong. It is also important to avoid extreme thinking. Many people fall into patterns where they see situations as either complete success or total failure. This type of thinking creates unnecessary stress and reduces confidence. A more balanced perspective allows you to see progress even when results are not perfect. It helps you stay consistent. Instead of reacting emotionally to every outcome, your environment also affects your inner voice. The content you consume, the people you interact with, and the conversations you engage in all influence your thinking. If you surround yourself with negativity, your inner voice is likely to reflect that. Choosing a more constructive environment can support your efforts to build a stronger mindset. Over time, as you gain control over your inner voice, something important changes. You stop being controlled by automatic negative thoughts and start directing your own thinking. This creates a sense of clarity and control that strengthens your confidence. You begin to trust your decisions more. You become less affected by temporary doubts and more focused on your actions. This is a major step toward dangerous confidence. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person is about to present their ideas in front of others. Their inner voice starts telling them that they will make mistakes and that people will judge them. Instead of accepting these thoughts, they pause and question them. They remind themselves that they have prepared and that they can handle the situation even if it is not perfect. This shift allows them to proceed with more stability and focus. Example: someone experiences a setback in their work and their inner voice begins to criticize them harshly. Instead of continuing this pattern, they step back and analyze the situation calmly. They focus on what can be improved rather than attacking themselves. This approach helps them recover faster and maintain their confidence. These examples show that your inner voice can either weaken you or strengthen you, depending on how you manage it. As you move forward, remember that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes and directs them. When you take control of your inner dialogue, you take control of your mindset. Dangerous confidence is built when your inner voice becomes aligned with your growth. It does not eliminate doubt completely, but it prevents doubt from stopping your actions. It keeps you moving forward even when challenges arise. When you reach this point, your confidence becomes more stable, more consistent, and more resilient because it is supported from within, not dependent on external factors. Chapter 9: Body Language and Presence. Confidence is not only something that exists in your mind, it is also expressed through your body. Every movement, every gesture, and every expression sends signals about how you see yourself. Even before you speak, people form impressions based on how you carry yourself. Dangerous confidence is not about pretending to be powerful. It is about aligning your inner state with your outer expression. When your body reflects calmness and certainty, your mind begins to follow that same state. One of the most important aspects of body language is posture. When you stand or sit in a controlled and upright way, it sends a message to your brain that you are stable and in control. When your posture is weak or closed, it reinforces feelings of uncertainty and insecurity. Eye contact is another powerful element. It shows presence and attention. When you avoid eye contact, you signal hesitation or discomfort. When you maintain natural and steady eye contact, you communicate confidence and awareness. Your voice also plays a major role in how you are perceived. Speaking too softly or too quickly can make you appear uncertain. Speaking clearly and at a steady pace creates a sense of authority and calmness. Presence is not about trying to dominate a room. It is about being fully engaged in the moment. When you are present, you are not distracted by fear of judgment or overthinking what others might think. You are focused on the interaction itself. Many people underestimate how much their physical behavior influences their mental state. If you act confidently, even when you do not feel confident, your mind gradually adjusts to match that behavior. This is because the brain constantly responds to physical cues. This means you can use your body as a tool to build confidence. Instead of waiting for confidence to appear first, another important factor is reducing unnecessary movements. Nervous habits, such as fidgeting or avoiding stillness, often come from internal tension. Becoming aware of these habits allows you to replace them with more controlled and intentional movement. However, confidence in body language is not about becoming stiff or unnatural. It is about being relaxed and controlled at the same time. True presence feels calm, not forced. Breathing also has a strong effect on your state of mind. Slow and controlled breathing helps regulate emotions and reduce anxiety. In stressful situations, this can help you maintain clarity and composure. Your physical environment can also influence your presence. When you are in spaces where you feel uncomfortable, your body may react with tension. Over time, exposing yourself to different environments helps you become more adaptable and grounded in various situations. Confidence in presence is also about how you enter a space. Walking into a room with awareness and calmness instead of hesitation changes how others perceive you, and more importantly, how you perceive yourself. Over time, these physical habits become automatic. You no longer have to think about them consciously. They become part of your identity and reinforce your internal confidence. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person who is normally shy decides to improve their presence in social situations. They start by focusing on their posture and maintaining eye contact during conversations. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but they continue practicing. Over time, they notice that people respond more positively, and they themselves feel more grounded in interactions. This builds confidence through physical awareness and repetition. Example: someone is required to speak in front of a group and initially feels nervous. Instead of focusing on fear, they concentrate on breathing, slowly standing straight, and speaking clearly. Even though nervousness is still present, their physical control helps them stay composed. Experience teaches them that their body can support their confidence, even under pressure. These examples show that confidence is not only a mental state, it is also a physical expression. When your body and mind work together, your presence becomes stronger and more stable. As you continue this journey, remember that you can influence your confidence through how you carry yourself. Every action, every posture, and every expression either reinforces doubt or builds strength. Dangerous confidence is visible not because it is forced, but because it is natural. It is the result of repeated alignment between how you feel inside and how you present yourself to the world. Chapter 10. Consistency is the real secret. If there is one thing that separates temporary motivation from real, dangerous confidence, it is consistency. Most people underestimate it because it does not feel exciting. It is not dramatic. It does not give instant results, but it is the foundation of everything that lasts. Confidence is not built in moments. It is built in patterns. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are. What you do occasionally has very little impact on your identity. Many people start strong. They feel motivated. They take action for a few days or weeks, and then they stop. When motivation fades, they return to old habits, and nothing changes. This cycle repeats and creates frustration because they believe they are trying, but they are not seeing transformation. The truth is, transformation does not come from intensity. It comes from repetition. Small actions done consistently are far more powerful than big actions done once in a while. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on something you told yourself you would do, you strengthen your internal reliability. This is what creates deep confidence, the belief that you can depend on yourself regardless of mood or circumstances. One of the biggest challenges with consistency is that results are often not immediate. You may be doing the right things, but progress feels slow. This is where most people quit, because they judge effort based on short-term outcomes. Dangerous confidence requires a different mindset. You focus on process instead of instant results. You understand that growth is happening even if it is not visible yet. Another important aspect is emotional independence. Consistency means doing what is necessary, even when you do not feel like it. If your actions depend only on motivation, you will be inconsistent because emotions change daily. You must learn to act based on commitment rather than feeling. This is what separates disciplined individuals from inconsistent. Small habits are extremely powerful because they are easier to maintain. Over time, these small actions compound and create significant change. For example, reading for a short time daily, practicing a skill regularly, or maintaining a simple routine can transform your abilities over months and years. The key is repetition, not perfection. Missing a day or making mistakes does not break consistency. What breaks it is giving up completely. The ability to return after interruptions is part of true consistency. Another important idea is identity reinforcement. Each consistent action sends a message to your mind about who you are. If you repeatedly act like someone who shows up and follows through, your identity shifts naturally toward discipline and reliability. This is how dangerous confidence is formed quietly, through repeated behavior, not through sudden change. You must also understand that consistency requires patience. In a world that values instant results, it can feel slow. But real strength is built over time, not overnight. When you stay consistent, you begin to notice subtle changes first. Your thinking becomes clearer, your decisions become easier, and your reactions become more stable. These small improvements eventually lead to major transformation. It is also important to create systems that support consistency. Relying only on willpower is not effective. Structuring your environment, your schedule, and your habits makes it easier to stay consistent, even during low motivation periods. Over time, consistency removes doubt. When you have evidence that you show up regularly, you stop questioning your ability. You already know through experience that you can be trusted. This is the deepest form of confidence. Not based on emotion, but on proven behavior. Consider how this appears in real situations. Example: a person wants to learn a new skill, but struggles with motivation. Instead of trying to study for long hours, occasionally they commit to a small daily practice, even if it is just a short session. They continue this every day regardless of mood. Over time, their skill improves significantly. And more importantly, their confidence grows because they prove to themselves that they can stay consistent. Example: someone decides to improve their health. They do not rely on extreme routines. Instead, they start with simple daily habits, like walking regularly and maintaining basic discipline in their diet. At first, progress feels slow, but after several weeks, they begin to see visible and internal changes. Their confidence increases because they stayed consistent, even when results were not immediate. These examples show that consistency is not about intensity. It is about reliability as you continue forward. Remember this. You do not need perfect conditions to build confidence. You need repeated action over time. Every consistent step you take is shaping your identity and strengthening your belief in yourself. Dangerous confidence is not created in a moment. It is built through accumulation of effort day after day until discipline becomes natural and self-trust becomes unshakable. Conclusion. Becoming dangerously confident in real life. Dangerous confidence is not a final destination. It is a continuous way of living. It is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is something you maintain through awareness, discipline, and action. Throughout this journey, one truth has remained constant. Confidence is built, not given. It is shaped through repeated experiences where you choose action over avoidance, responsibility over excuses, and growth over comfort. You began by understanding that confidence is not arrogance or noise. It is self-trust, the ability to rely on yourself, even when outcomes are uncertain. As you moved forward, you saw that fear is not a stop sign, but a signal pointing toward growth. You learned that avoiding fear shrinks your world while facing it expands your strength. You also discovered that self-respect is the foundation of confidence. When you keep your promises to yourself, you build internal trust. When you break them, you weaken it. Every action you take either strengthens or weakens your identity. Approval was another major barrier. Learned that depending on others for validation creates instability, while letting go of approval creates freedom. True confidence grows when your decisions are guided by values, not fear of judgment. Then came mental toughness, the ability to stay steady under pressure, to recover from setbacks, and to continue moving forward, even when results are not immediate. This is where confidence is tested and strengthened. You also learn that identity is shaped through action, not thought. Every consistent behavior becomes evidence of who you are, and over time your identity shifts to match your actions. Failure was redefined, not as an end, but as feedback. You understood that failure only becomes destructive when you attach your identity to it. When used correctly, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for growth. Your inner voice was also brought into focus. You realized that your thoughts are not always truth, and that you have the ability to question and reshape them. Instead of being controlled by negative self-talk, you learn to guide your thinking in a more constructive direction. Body language and presence showed that confidence is not only internal, but also physical. How you stand, how you speak, and how you carry yourself influence both how others see you and how you see yourself. Finally, consistency revealed itself as the real secret. Not motivation, not talent, but repeated action over time is what creates lasting confidence. Small actions done daily build a foundation that cannot be easily shaken. Now the final understanding is simple but powerful. Dangerous confidence is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing everything that weakens your trust in yourself and strengthening everything that supports it. It is built in ordinary moments, when you choose to act instead of delay, when you choose honesty instead of excuses, and when you choose discipline instead of comfort. There will still be fear, there will still be doubt, there will still be challenges, but they will no longer control you. They will simply become part of the process, because at this point, you are no longer dependent on how you feel. You are guided by who you are becoming, and that is the real meaning of dangerous confidence. Not perfection, not dominance, but unshakable self-trust built through action over time. The end.